Hi, this is Marilee Sears, your host for the Future of Dentistry event, and today I'm joined by Katherine Eitel. I insisted that Katherine be a part of the Future of Dentistry event again because she's such a natural leader, and she's always looking for opportunities to improve herself and naturally improve those around her. She's the creator of the Lioness Principle, a powerful leadership concept for individuals and dental teams looking to realize their full potential. And Katherine helps discard old scripts and encourages clients to maximize their personal performance in and out of the office. And that's why I'm so excited to have her here with me today. How are you doing, Katherine?
I couldn't be better. Thanks for inviting me on this great program again. I'm just delighted to be with you.
Well, you definitely made it last time. So, of course, I'm going to be bothering you every year because I always want to know what you see happening in dentistry and what your advice is. So we'll probably just go ahead and I'm going to just jump right on in.
That's great.
You've probably heard there's some people struggling in dentistry. Have you heard that at all?
A little bit, though I do hear a lot of positive things as well. So, yeah, but of course there are people who are struggling. Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't agree with you more that, I think there's maybe more people that are struggling, but there's also people that are doing better than they have ever done before.
Yeah,
and so
that's right.
For those people that are listening that are kind of in that struggling mode, that it feels like they're kind of stuck, do you have either some advice or any encouragement that you would give to them to help them kind of move out of that stuck place?
So are you speaking strictly about their schedule, or are you wanting to just talk about, just kind of stuck about where to go with their practice and their place in the industry? Someone
who's feeling stuck in their practice, they feel like their practice is kind of stagnant. What advice would you give to that dentist?
There is absolutely zero reason to be stagnant in this marketplace right now, and here's my belief as to why. Right now, we have the greatest number in the history of our country of Americans who are looking for anything that will help them to stay fit, to stay healthy, to live longer and live longer with vitality and mobility and with some semblance of beauty. And they care about it. It's high on their value system, much higher than it's been in generations past. And these consumers, many of them, the vast majority of them, are coming into their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s with money to spend. And so our economy is recovering or is recovered and is actually really booming in many areas of the country. I know in my area of Southern California, real estate is back, very stable again, if not growing. We feel it. I feel it everywhere I go in the country. And so there's sort of a perfect storm brewing, I think, and we see evidence of it everywhere. For example, you see this explosion of farm-to-fork restaurants or whole foods, natural food grocery store chains. Even in the older established grocery store chains, you see growing and burgeoning organic products, the percentage of their products that are either locally grown or organic. I think that is a very small little piece of evidence that supports this idea that we are now interested as consumers in what is it I can do that will prolong my health, cause me to feel better now, and extend my life with longevity and vitality. And we are willing to pay twice as much for those eggs as we are for those eggs because we think somehow we have some information that we believe tells us that will do it. And so this idea of take the stairs and Fitbits that you wear to count your steps and just the amount of concierge and preventive medicine physicians that are opening up private practices where insurance isn't the leading generator of new patients. The leading generator of new patients in those alternative and concierge physicians is referrals and some of the marketing that they're doing, and they are booming. That piece of healthcare is growing. And so what we see right now is great opportunities to join very stable and growing group practices and corporate dentistry. And I believe we have more choices in that arena than we ever had before, and many of them are solid and good. So there are always those avenues to look at. But if you're not interested in that model, or there's something about that model that doesn't fit for you, then private practice has, I think, an amazing opportunity. And that opportunity is in this idea of communicating differently with your team, with your patients, and with your community at large about the connection between the mouth, the health of the mouth, and the health of the body, and the health of the body to the health of the mouth. We've had to talk people into paying thousands of dollars to treat their periodontal conditions when they don't feel it, they don't sense it, they don't smell it, they don't have any indication that anything's wrong, and to go and spend something, in the thousands of dollars when I'm not going to see an improvement in my appearance, and I'm not going to see an improvement in any kind of reduction in pain. It's hard sometimes to motivate people and get them to believe what we're telling them about their state of health. But when we can now show them the science behind this, and there's a trick to it, because we tend to get off in areas that become unmotivating. But when we find the right way to talk about the science, and when we find the right ways to make the connection between their family history, their genetic propensity, and this oral disease that they have, when we are able to make that connection really well, there's now a much bigger reason that we already know these consumers care about, a much bigger motivation to cough up this money. I mean, we see it in the amount of supplements that are sold. And, all those kinds of things, they all speak to what people are willing to do if they believe, which the supplement industry, the farm-to-fork industry, the organic food industry has done an exceptional job of convincing us that spending more money is worth it, because it will have a direct effect on our well-being. And they are paying that price without a problem. And that can happen in industry.
What you touched on there is so true, that you can inspire people. When you inspire people and you hit their motivators of what it is that they really want, then suddenly it's not a challenge. It's not, you're no longer really selling to them. You are helping them engage in what they want for themselves and what the vision that they have for themselves and for their health and for their well-being. But you really can't inspire people with information, right? Is that maybe the struggle that so many practices have, and something that I've fallen into that pit before. I've fallen into that rut of trying to convince people with information. And like I said, when you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it, and all they're doing is taking my word for it, when maybe they've met me for the first time, or maybe they've known me for a year or two. It can be hard, if not impossible, to bridge that gap. But when we're no longer trying to bridge that gap, but instead we're really interested in what motivates our patients, don't you feel like then you don't have to worry about the bridge nearly as much?
Well, that's true. And it's not just finding what motivates them. It's finding what motivates them and then using their information to convince them. See, I always say people will argue, people won't argue with their own information. Like if they fill out a registration and health history form, they're not going to argue with their own information when you say it appears that there is a family history of heart disease or diabetes or of pancreatic cancer, right? Because the practices who are embracing this have completely re-engineered their health history forms to tap into the wealth of information that we can tie to the science. So they revamp their health history forms, they revamp their patient interview techniques and questions. And so now people aren't going to argue with their own data, but they'll argue with ours all day long. So if the only data previously, information they got previously was, I'm telling you you have this disease, and I'm telling you you're going to be sicker if you don't get it treated, you're going to lose your teeth someday, somewhere, maybe down the road, if we even said that. And so they sit there and go, really? Am I? I don't know. This is all what they're telling me. It's nothing. It's all our data. It's all our information. But when we say, I'm really concerned about this, not only because it's, I see evidence in your mouth and let me show you so you can see your own information, but also I see here that you've indicated a family history of this and a family history of that, and that means you'll have a heightened genetic propensity toward this. When you couple that with an active infection anywhere in your body, if it's under your fingernails, if it's an oral infection, if it were in your eyes, it wouldn't matter where it is. You have now increased your risk by 50% that in the next few years you would be a candidate for that same heart disease. And so I'm encouraging you, not only because it will save your teeth, but way more important, you can live without your teeth, but you won't live with heart disease. And so I'm asking you to really consider this, because I feel that you have these other indicators that coupled together, it's really going to make a difference, right? Or I see, according to our interview, that you're scheduled for X, Y, and Z surgeries. Now, you are not going to want to go into an operating room at a hospital with an infection already in your body. Your chances of getting a hospital-borne infection and taking a lot longer to heal are now heightened because of the infection you already have going in to the hospital. And we're finding that when practices train their teams to have these conversations, when they give them the visual aids to use, when they go out into their community and they start developing relationships with all of these other healthcare providers that are interested in the same ideas and are aware of the same kind of science, now we start to build referral networks with people that are really already saying, I've already been going to this physician because I like the way they educate me and I believe in their philosophy, or I've been going to this chiropractor, I've been going to this, surgeon, and these are the kinds of professionals I want to do to take care of my health, and if you're the dentist they recommend, I'm in. Right? So and vice versa. We're seeing hospitals that are starting to say, who are the dentists in the area that we can get pre-screenings for these particular kinds of surgeries or these particular kinds of treatments for our patients. Before we start those, we want dental clearances. Who are the dentists that can do that? If you're in those relationships and have done that, you will get patients. And so you see what I'm saying, Marilee, that there is no reason right now for practices to not have full schedules. And my clients are looking for help. They're looking for associates. We're looking for team members that are passionate about this and excited about this, because we're booming and busting at the seams. So it's just one kind of focus. There's lots of focuses you could have, but I really love this one because it's a new conversation. It's a real conversation. It's not so much a hardcore sales technique as it is really getting into how do we help them recognize this link. And the good news for us is it's in consumer magazines. It's in the offices of these other healthcare providers, and it's starting to become something that people are understanding on a consumer level. So to be suffering when there is this much potential out there is silly. And I would really encourage any of your listeners that are feeling that way to reach out and get some support around how you can get your teams trained and get them knowledgeable about this, and just open the floodgates. I mean, seriously, open the floodgates. It's just crazy.
And what you said there, Katherine, is so true that, there's a real possibility for incredible referral networks. And the other part of that is that if they're really looking, if we were each to go into our practice and dentists were each to go into their practice and look with those new eyes of, I want each of my patients to be getting the best care and to be as healthy as I can help them to be. Really, so many times we recognize there's a lot already within our practice, a lot of potential.
Oh my gosh. Sometimes
right?
we try not to grow the new patient count too much because there's so much coming out of hygiene that has been delayed, pending treatment for years, and suddenly this new conversation, they're doing it. They're doing it. They're scheduling it. They're paying for it. And so when we start to see that happening, I say, let's focus on that. Let's focus on really developing our skills with the patients we already have relationships with, and then we'll slowly start to reach out into the community when we have the capacity to fulfill it. But it becomes just this amazing relationship builder, and it puts you in a really perfect light in the community for being a true healthcare provider and not just a drill and fill dentist. There's no reason to be there. You should be part of their healthcare team. And a complete health dentist is that. They are looking at the complete body, not just the mouth. That's not their sole area of focus. And this train has left the station, and you can get on board, but it's moving and it's developing. As a matter of fact, there's a fantastic, and before we're done, I'll give your listeners a way to get a look at this movie. But there is a documentary film recently released by Next Level Practice and Gary Katie's organization, and it is called Say Ah, the Cavity and Healthcare Reform, and it is a consumer documentary made for the general public that explains this link, not just the link between periodontal disease and dental health, but also sleep apnea and abscessed teeth and oral cancer, and so many of the things that we have the ability to diagnose have a direct effect on people's quality of life and their total well-being. And so the documentary is exceptionally well done and really brilliant. And so a lot of dentists are not only showing a loop of this in their reception area, they're making information available in pamphlets and booklets, but they're also showing they're often doing screenings of this movie in their community with other healthcare providers and the heads of nursing departments and the chief operating officers at hospitals, and they're bringing those communities together for a conversation. They watch the movie, and then they're having a conversation about what does this mean to us? How can we develop some ways to support one another in the care we have for our patients? And it's really put them at the forefront of it in their community. So there's really a lot of resources out there for people if they're interested in learning how to do this. And I just couldn't tell you, I don't think I've been this excited about what is possible in dentistry ever in my career. It's phenomenal. And there's no reason to be afraid. There's no reason to be bored. There's no reason to be pessimistic. Quite the opposite, in my opinion.
Catherine, that gave me chills because I couldn't agree more. And I love that you shared Gary Katie and Next Level Practices documentary, Say Odd. You were the one that actually shared it with me earlier. And oh my goodness, I've had a chance to view it, and I'm quite certain that the listeners are going to get a chance to view it. It is nothing, it's exceptional. It is exceptional, and it's nothing less than like paradigm changing. It changes your perspective. It's, it's like you said, it is done in a way that it's so compelling for the patients to view. But I almost think having your team start out, because it would take away that resistance of, oh, we're doing something different.
Right.
Oh, it completely changes that because it is done from the total health, the complete health. What a benefit this is to the patient, and what a detriment it is when you don't look at it that way. And it's so exceptionally well done. I cannot recommend it highly enough, and I really appreciate you sharing it with me. And
you're welcome. And I'll tell you, I am so excited. He's working on a follow-up film that followed, I believe it was a periodontist or an oral surgeon around. Anyway, it was a dental professional around as he took this message into his local community. And the movie is about following his efforts to educate his patient base and his community about this and what he's doing. And so I think that this is where there is so much potential for private practice. And there's no doubt that corporate dentistry as well and group practice will also be embracing this. So it's now is the time to be at the forefront in your community, because at some point it will be like cosmetic dentistry was.
Right.
For a while, back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, if you were a cosmetic dentist, you were one of a very few elite. That's no longer the case. And so that is probably going to happen with this. I think there's a huge future ahead, though. I know for certain that there are people who are creating, and I know this is happening at Next Level Practice, they are creating a similar model in medicine. So they're actually taking the model that's working in dentistry for educating patients this way, for interviewing patients this way, for presenting treatment to them in this way. They're taking that model into medicine for all of those disenchanted doctors that want to do they want to practice a different way with their patients. They're showing them how they can also grow practices along this line. And what they foresee are group practices starting where there are physicians and dentists and periodontists and oral surgeons who all speak the same language, caring for people as a whole. And seriously, physically getting into groups and sharing buildings and locations and becoming the centers for well-being, right? And being part of that movement. I mean, we see look at even at the gyms, not only the number of gyms, but look at the offerings at gyms. Suddenly, what we see more and more of are yoga classes and meditation classes and classes that are low impact. These are because our population is aging and they still want to stay fit and vital. And that's why you're seeing, I want to go someplace where my whole health can be addressed. And so we're going to see this. It's happening, and I think we're going to really. It's just a really exciting time, and there's just a ton of possibilities. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is for me. That is extremely, extremely exciting because I mean, if we all think back about traditional medicine, right now it's rather reactionary, but there are, as you said, more and more of those clinics and more doctors that are proactive and that really talk about the entire health. And I can tell you for myself and I have 2 children, for those doctors that educate me and that really care for my health and for my children's health, I drive over an hour to see the pediatrician that I feel like actually really cares about them. I do not care that he's no longer in our insurance network. I can really say that as someone because he's brought so much value to my life and what he's educated for me about with myself and with my children. And go ahead, Katherine.
I just had excuse me for interrupting. I just also had an appointment with, I don't know the proper term, I'm probably not saying it correctly, but for lack of knowing the right term, I'll say she was an alternative care physician, primary care. And she spent, I'm going to say probably an hour and 20 minutes with me on my first visit. She told me it would not be covered by insurance and it would be over $200, and it was. And I paid it because she came highly recommended. She spent the time with me. She ordered all kinds of tests. Some would be covered by my insurance, some would not. All kinds of screenings that had never been ordered before because they weren't covered by insurance, but she showed me why she felt they were important markers to know and baselines to get. And then we talked about everything. We talked about my diet. We talked about my fitness. We talked about, levels of activity. We talked about my family history, my goals for the future, what I was experiencing right now. It was so well-rounded that I walked away going, I never knew some of the things she explained to me, and I felt so cared for, and so it was such a holistic approach. And so that's what we're seeing. And if they'll spend it in medicine, they'll spend it in dentistry. And and I don't mean that it's about the money. I mean you won't have to worry about the money because you will feel so good about presenting this truth, which we know is rooted in sound science now. We're presenting a whole bigger picture to them and allowing them to make much better decisions. And it's just been fascinating to watch and really spectacular. And I would say one of the most spectacular things for me as a communication and team building coach has been to watch how this has ignited and bonded teams together unlike anything. I mean, I've taken a lot of bonus programs and incentive programs and structural programs and systematic programs. I've taken all kinds of things in, and I haven't seen anything in the past that has brought a team together in this way where they really unite around this cause. It's like a movement, or a cause. And they still may have incentive programs, but they're not having any trouble meeting their goals, and so it's working, and so the whole thing is lifted. And it's just phenomenal. It just really is phenomenal. So, yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah.
It's really good stuff. And I'm going to that makes me think of a quote from one of my all-time favorites. I'm just going to share it really quickly because I think it caps what you're saying so well, is that so many times within a practice, it can be easy to focus on the money and either what's coming in or what is not coming in. And to quote one of my favorite books, The Alchemist, at one point, the boy, Sebastian? I can't know. It's been too long since I've read it. It's only been a month, but still. He says, why can't everybody make gold as an alchemist can? Why can't everybody make gold? And he said, because all they want, the alchemist responds, because all they want is the gold. And when you make the focus something else, when you make the focus the patients and their complete health, it is amazing how money comes, but the focus and the motivator and what keeps everybody so inspired and so excited is the fact that they're actually changing lives.
They are, and it's easier to do. Where when we were presenting periodontal care, for example, in the traditional ways, we had to learn these really, I'll just say what it is. They were sales techniques. We had to learn ways to present it that would maybe frighten patients if you don't do it. This is what's going. They were these kinds of techniques of showing them the consequences and things like that. Whereas this is actually tapping into something patients already want. And so they're coming in wanting it, and it's just a much easier conversation. And so, of course, the teams are more excited because there's not as much resistance. There's a lot more acceptance, easier and quicker acceptance, and it's just been a joy. It's been a joy because all along, I believe, of course, there are exceptions in anything, but most of the dental professionals I've had the privilege to work with really do care about their patients. They really do care. And so this has made getting them to say yes, where we're skipping out of the office at the end of the day because we know we had more patients say yes to care that we know we will see a result in, they will see a result in, and their lives will be better. And that is just a very, very cool way to spend all these hours at work, feeling really satisfied about that and not having to learn some things that really didn't quite, it's like the glove didn't quite fit. And we didn't get into medicine to be hardcore salespeople. We got into medicine and dentistry because we really felt the calling, most of us. And this for me is it's just like wrapping your arms around that calling and saying, all right, this feels a lot better. So it's a very exciting, and I just love what it's doing with teams. And, it's funny, a lot of the practices that have really embraced this have gotten so creative about they want to make sure, it's like the integrity meter has moved. They want to make sure that we're not sitting there talking to people about their lifestyle and about how the health of their mouth will affect or impact their lifestyle and how lifestyle will impact their health. We don't want to do that if we aren't walking the talk. So now we're seeing these offices come together with their own internal health challenges. They're having vegetable and fruit competitions, and they're having getting rid of sugar and walking at lunch and getting involved in 5K charity runs and things where they're losing weight and they're getting more fit and more healthy and paying attention to their own overall health. Some of them have, meditation Fridays, and where they have someone come in on Friday morning, and the team can take advantage of that learning about that practice of yoga or meditation or both. And so just really beginning to tap into the things they're interested in and to, they're wearing Fitbits around the office and having fun with those competitions. And it's just, I'm just finding that all the ships are rising with this higher tide. And it's pretty cool to see. Yeah.
No, Katherine, thank you so much. I think right there you gave about 15 different ideas of something that people can do tomorrow to make their future better, because thank you. Thank you for sharing
welcome.
Your passion.
It's really focused on that. I mean, I know we had kind of briefly talked about when we were talking about the interview earlier about what to do with open time in the schedule, but truthfully, and I've got, tons of ideas, and we can do that again another day, but truthfully, it becomes such a moot point when you have, when your concern is managing a lot of business, that becomes a fun challenge rather than trying to drag out the business and get it in there. And so I hope what I've done is, illuminate the idea that there's plenty. There's more than you could do. Mm-hmm. And so it's about getting your head on straight about that, going and finding the resources around it and getting out of the victim's role, pulling out of that and saying, if it's happening around the country with some people, then it must be possible. And how can I find out what they know? And I find these people are excited about it enough that they're very willing. It's a very strong community. And so they're not worried that someone else in their town is taking this on. They're saying, well, let's work together. It's interesting. It's really interesting. So I hope that, your listeners will really feel there's if you continue to be short of business, it's because you either aren't willing to ask for the resources and help, or you really don't want to. There's really some other thing there, because if you want it, it's absolutely available. And then the little pieces of figuring out, how do I keep my schedule steady? How do I keep it sane and full? And, that just those are the easy things to learn because they're really systems. And that becomes easier when your flow is really, abundant and you're already prosperous. Then those just become tweaks to the business, and any good consultant can help you figure that out. So, yeah.
Katherine, thank you so much. You have definitely lit a fire in me, and I'm sure you've lit a fire in plenty of the listeners. Thank you so much. Thank you for your commitment to this profession, and thank you for, like I said, sharing it with us today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'd love to give your listeners a few resources, if I may.
Absolutely. Perfect.
So if they would like to get a link sent to them for the movie, then send me an email at info@KatherineEitel.com, and that's KATHERINE, and my last name is EITEL. So in the middle, there are two E's. KatherineEitel.com. So info@KatherineEitel.com. Just let me know that you're a listener to the Future of Dentistry. Let me know that you'd like to see a link to the movie. Excuse me. And then also, if you're interested, we have a brand new, I shouldn't say brand new, we have a renewed product called Have Them at Hello. If you're interested in improving your phone skills and verbal skills for incoming or outgoing calls in your practice, I have taken my most popular product in the last 10 years, Have Them at Hello, and we have created an audio download, revamped and updated that program. It actually has real calls in it that I did with a friend. She called in, and I did not know exactly what she was going to ask, and I show how the techniques can work. So she asked me a shopper question. She asked me an insurance question. She called and pretended to be an emergency, and we just did the call so that you could hear how it could sound. It comes with, a VIP intake form for your new patient phone calls and lots of scripting for outgoing calls. And we're making that available. We're also making available a program or a kit, if you will, that includes that audio, but also includes access to 3 training webinars and 3 mystery shopper calls that we will do. We will send you the call, and we will send you a report card that tells you what you're doing really well to keep doing it, and 2 or 3 or 4 opportunities that we see for growth. So we take a really positive approach with everyone. We think everyone can be trained to be better, and if they're brave enough to record themselves and listen to it and get the feedback, they can get better, which is, of course, what helps us move our salaries up and helps us become the person in our town that all the practices are fighting for. So if that's what you'd like to do, then either get the audio download and train yourself, or consider having us help you with that a little bit. Again, shoot me an email. Let me know that you're interested. We'll send you a flyer with all the pricing information. We are giving 15% off for anyone this month that contacts us from the Future of Dentistry webinar series. If you do that, we will get you 15% off of that product. So
fantastic.
Very excited about it.
What we'll make sure to do is to get a link for each of these. Like, we'll have a link on the website with your interview for the info for people to contact you for and then should they also just contact you at info@KatherineEitel.com about the
and then we'll send
them
we'll send them all the information about it, and they can listen to a sample and all of that. The last thing I want to say, and that you mentioned it before we got on the webinar, we'd love to invite everyone to subscribe to our Monday Morning Stretch. It's a Monday morning blog that I write just about what I'm thinking about: motivation, inspiration, verbal skills, teamwork, just being a better person in the world. So I just write what I'm thinking about. We've got over 6,000 subscribers and growing, and it's free, and it's in your inbox every Monday morning. Lots of practices use it to kick off their week, but we've had a lot of fun with it, and I'd love to have everyone. So if they want to do that, they can either go to my website, which is lionesslearning.com, or KatherineEitel.com. It will take you to the same place, or shoot us an email and we'll get you on the list. So.
Excellent. Katherine, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your wisdom. I've been an avid reader of the Monday Morning Stretch for years now, so thank you for always keeping those Monday mornings bright and entertaining. I love getting them messages.
I'm so glad to do it. It's my pleasure, and thanks again, Marilee, for inviting me. You're doing a great service for this industry, and it's a privilege to be on with you.
Oh, really appreciate things, Katherine.